One of the first games to really revolutionize the first-person shooter genre was Wolfenstein 3D. Shortly after its release was a Wolfenstein clone that many of us were probably not allowed to play, Doom. Today, we're skipping ahead a few games and taking a look at how much Doom has evolved, from its pixelated 3D world to a full-on survival horror experience in Doom 3. The original Doom shook up the gaming industry in late 1993, and it laid the groundwork for what a first-person shooter could be. Developed by id Software, the idea for Doom came about while the development team played Dungeons & Dragons. A failed attempt at obtaining a magic sword caused their world to be overrun with demons. This sparked the idea in everyone's head of what a video game could be like in a world like that. Aside from Dungeons & Dragons, the game was also heavily inspired by the film Aliens, with its fast-paced action, and The Evil Dead 2. It's also worth mentioning at this point, before we get too far into the video, that id Software also developed Wolfenstein like we mentioned in the intro. This would be why we call Doom a clone, since they look very similar to one another. The team originally intended for the game to have a lot of story involved to heighten the sense of dread, but due to advancements in technology, they had to make the graphics their priority. To keep the focus on graphics, lead programmer and id Software co-founder John Carmack developed a new engine, known as id Tech 1. Or the Doom engine. This new engine pioneered a lot of features into the first-person shooter genre, such as complex rooms with various ceiling heights, multiplayer, non-perpendicular walls, and packaging the game's content for easier distribution. The story was referred to as the Doom Bible, and was written by designer Tom Hall. This Bible explained the plot, backstory, and design goals for the project. This document was reworked several times over the course of the development phase to try and match the technology being put into the game, but ultimately it was completely rejected. The team wanted a fast-paced game style, and found that story would only slow down the gameplay. The rejection of the Doom Bible got the ball rolling, and Hall was eventually fired, moving first to 3D Realms and later directing the RPG Anachronox. After its release, id Software stated that they believed the game would be the biggest cause for decreased productivity in the workplace, which was extremely accurate. So much so that companies started putting in new policies to prevent people from playing games at work, which means prior to the release there was never really an issue with gaming at your place of employment. Within 2 years of the release, it is estimated that the game was installed on more than 10 million computers. This is only an estimate due to the game only being available through a mail order, with id Software stating that over 1 million copies were actually sold. 9 months after the release came Doom 2. And your thoughts are correct. It was an insanely short amount of time between the two games. But if you do a quick side-by-side comparison between the two, you can quickly understand why. The gameplay between the two is nearly identical, with your objective being to find keys, and of course kill demons along the way. 5 new enemies along with a new final boss were added alongside a new weapon and power-up. Because its levels were larger and a bit more complicated, Doom 2 required a little more power from the hardware. Doom 2 had a very successful release, selling 2 million copies, but the series just kind of ended there. After such a quick turnaround for Doom 2, we didn't actually see another release in the series for another 10 years. In early 2000, Carmack sparked a conversation about remaking the original game with the new technology they had. Owners Kevin Cloud and Adrian Carmack strongly opposed a remake, with fears that they were using the same gameplay elements too often. The team was in agreement until they saw the success of their Wolfenstein 3D remake, Return to Castle Wolfenstein. It was at this point that most of the employees confronted the owners, stating, "Allow us to remake Doom, or just fire us." Not really having much of a choice, the confrontation was quickly resolved, and development started on Doom 3. The game was developed using the id Tech 4 engine, which allowed for GUI surfaces for more interactivity, along with stencil shadowing and unified lighting. In 2001, the team showed off a few screenshots of the remake at the Macworld conference and Expo in Tokyo to build some hype. A year later at E3, a 15-minute demo was shown. This led to several awards along with speculation that the game was going to be released later that year. However, after this E3 event, the team went quiet, with their website excluding any information regarding the project. It wasn't until E3 2003 that a new trailer was revealed along with the project going live on their website. The team anticipated a holiday release in order to compete with Half-Life 2 and Halo 2, but unfortunately it was delayed until August of 2004. To this day, Doom 3 stands as the most successful project that id Software has ever made. While attempting to make Mars habitable with a breathable atmosphere, the construction of the city accidentally reveals artifacts of an ancient Martian colony. One of these artifacts was the Soul Cube, a powerful weapon created using the souls of sacrificed Martians in order to destroy the demons taking over their world, along with a bunch of stone tablets containing information on a technology for teleportation. When the scientists finally get the teleporter up and running, they realize it's more of a portal device that leads to a new dimension. With several tests using cameras and animals, the scientists start to learn that this new world is filled with intense heat and demonic creatures. This leads to human test subjects being sent into the world with a 0% success rate. The main scientist, Dr. Malcolm Betruger, becomes obsessed with this new dimension and soon enters it himself, later emerging with a different personality. The company's lawyer, along with his bodyguard, and us tagging along too, head up to Mars to investigate the operation. This is where we come into play. We were sent to Mars in order to replace a Marine who previously died in an operation. Our first objective is to find the missing scientist located somewhere on the base. Upon finding the scientist, he states,
"The devil is real. I know. I built his case."
I'm getting abnormal readings here.
This is followed by an explosion from the teleporter, sending a shockwave through the complex. Glowing pentagrams appear along with ghost skulls, transforming almost all of the staff into zombies, including the scientist we just found. The surviving crew is then killed off by the attacking demons, leaving only us and a few others alive. On our way back to where we started, we overhear Dr. Betruger arguing with a lawyer in a video call. Staying relatively calm, he states that everything is under control. During our exploration of the labs, we find out that Betruger is working with Hell to invade Earth, as if this wasn't obvious at this point. While chasing him through the labs, we are then trapped and forced into the portal leading to Hell. At this point, we have to fight our way through hordes of demons in order to reach a demonic guardian. Upon defeating the guardian, we're able to use the teleporter to travel back to the labs, where we find Betruger again. He informs us that even though the main teleporter was destroyed, a new opening is being created on Mars that would allow for millions of demons to emerge and take over. While running through the base some more, we find out that Sergeant Kelly, the man who originally gave us the task of finding the missing scientist, has also been involved with Hell since the beginning. We eventually run into Sergeant Kelly again in the central computer core, where we see that he has combined with a tank-like base. With everyone destroyed, we make our way to the opening in Mars and use the Soul Cube to destroy the Guardian protecting the hull, known as the Cyber Demon. Along with destroying the Cyber Demon, the Soul Cube also seals the hull, preventing any more demons from coming through. We're then presented with a cutscene showing reinforcements arriving from Earth to find the war that took place. We leave with them, and everything seems fine. But if you were paying attention, we never said what happened to Dr. Betruger. This is followed up at the end with a cutscene where we see him in Hell, transformed into a creature known as Maledict, a dragon-like demon. Compared to the first two games in the series, Doom 3 has impressive graphics. A lot of this can be thanked to the id Tech 4 engine we mentioned earlier. This new engine allowed for per-pixel lighting, shadow volumes, unified lighting and shadowing, and the ability to use mega texture technology. To put it into terms that everybody can understand, this new game engine allowed for spectacular environments and lighting, and it shows. Every room, weapon, and enemy looks great, and the effects of the lighting play a significant role in the horror of the game. The music, however, is pretty normal for a horror-based game. The ambient tones work well with the scenery around you, and it really sets a great tone for the game. Very early on in development, Trent Reznor of 9 Inch Nails was supposed to compose the music and sound effects. CEO Todd Hollinshead said, "I don't think Trent anticipated how long and how involved that process was." Instead, former 9 Inch Nails drummer Chris Varena's new project Tweaker composed and produced the soundtrack. Since you gain the story through the interactions with NPCs and PDAs that you find, there is plenty of voice work in this game. While nothing sounds bad, there's nothing that really stands out either. It gets the job done and just keeps the story moving forward. As with the original games, your objective is to make your way through each linear level and destroy any enemy that gets in your way, along with finding key codes to open locked doors. Each level has a decent amount of darkness, with some corners being completely pitch black. This is where your flashlight, along with several scares, come into play. As you can tell from our footage, our flashlight is hooked to our armor and has a limited amount of battery which recharges when you turn it off. However, the flashlight location is due to us playing the BFG version. In the original release, your flashlight was in a weapon slot, which means that you had the choice of either seeing what's in front of you or going in blind with your gun. We jumped enough with the flashlight permanently attached to our body, so we can't imagine how much worse it would have been having to switch out a weapon to see. The levels are set up in a way that you can almost guarantee a zombie will be hidden in the dark. waiting for you to walk by. It didn't take us very long to get into the habit of checking every single dark corner and area before searching the rest of the rooms for items, which leads us into one of our biggest annoyances with this game, the enemy spawns. You can work your way through the area, progressing ahead slowly but surely, only to have more zombies and demons come up behind you. Although we can give the demons a break, since they can teleport in wherever they please, the zombie spawns seem a bit ridiculous. If we clear an area, we shouldn't have to worry about a zombie coming up behind us, since logically that makes absolutely no sense. At first, it seems like there's enough enemy variety until you start to catch on to the pattern. The enemies act like they're on more of an unlock system than anything else. For example, when you're introduced to this demon that shoots rockets, of course you're going to see him a lot more from now on. Oh, now we have flaming skulls. They're going to overuse those in about 5 minutes. Hey look, spider things. Better start checking every crack in the floor and wall to make sure you won't get flooded with them from here on out. Instead of uniquely changing up the enemies you'll encounter throughout your playthrough, they stack in terms of when you find them. It starts off with simplistic zombies and fire-throwing demons, and it eventually gets to the point where you're encountering every type of enemy in an area at the same time. This led us to never really look forward to what we'll see next, as we knew it would just lead to us being swamped non-stop with that type of enemy. The boss fights were never really impressive either. Although some of them took us a bit of time to finish, they were never too difficult. The only time we really died was when we were being reckless and tried to rush the fight. While exploring the levels, you'll occasionally come across special rooms and lockers that require a 3-digit code. To find these codes, you'll have to go through all of the PDAs that you find on your journey. These PDAs can also provide more backstory, along with security clearances to enter specific rooms. These can get somewhat annoying if you have a situation where you find a locked door, but don't have the PDA with the correct security clearances to let you through the door. This will lead to a lot of backtracking in order to find that device, which brings up one feature of the enemies we enjoyed. If you clear an entire area, you'll never see an enemy there again. This comes in handy if you're unsure which way to go. If you find an enemy, then you know that you're on the right track. If you've played the original Doom games, then you'll be right at home with the weapon selection. You have your classic choices like the chainsaw, plasma gun, and the BFG 9000 from Doom 1, and the super shotgun from Doom 2. The new additions to Doom 3 are the flashlight, machine gun, grenades, and the soul cube. We never really found a particular favorite weapon to use, as each weapon had its advantages and disadvantages according to how much room you had to fight. My personal favorite was the plasma gun. Health, ammo, and armor can be found scattered through each level, and occasionally you'll run into a health station located on a wall with a specific level of health they can give to you. In most cases, when you see a health station, or even multiple health stations in a row, you can tell that you're about to get into a big fight. This system of healing is actually quite useful, since you really only need to take what you need. This means that you'll have multiple machines left over with a little bit of health on it. Although this would cause you to backtrack an entire level to hit up every health station you didn't deplete, it's definitely a method to keep alive. When jumping into the game, it was quite exciting to see something from our childhood remade into something truly scary. But this excitement was quickly lost when we realized it was non-stop repetition and not a lot of new elements to keep us motivated. And when looking back on it, that's pretty much what the original games were like too. The way that new enemies were introduced led us to become extremely bored with the gameplay. Nothing ever really changed and it just became more of a nuisance than entertainment. For a Doom sequel, Doom 3 went above and beyond, creating a world that was entirely new from what the originals consisted of. Even though it holds up on the graphics and being an above average first-person shooter, those two positives aren't enough to carry this game through to the end. In the 9 months of doing this show, we only gave up on 2 other games. First was Diablo for what we assumed was our lack of skill in the game, and then secondly was Blitz for its rubber banding problems and drawn out gameplay for absolutely no reason. We can now add a third game to the list with Doom 3 for its repetitive and boring gameplay and game design. We tried our hardest to push through and see this game to its end, but in the end we had to throw in the towel. Doom 3 does not hold up as a horror game, and is only really a decent first-person shooter when you look at everything as a whole.
Wow!